Welcome back to San Antonio Sports Stars Cowboys React. I'm James Pledger. I am joined by Karl Schoening, the host of Halftime and producer of R&R in the Morning, as we react to a Cowboys win as they beat the Eagles 41-21 in what was a game that didn't seem like it was in doubt at all on Monday night. We'll be doing this for every single Cowboys game. As we look back at what happened, first and foremost, Karl, what are your takeaways from what was a convincing win by the Dallas Cowboys?
You know, you try not to get too high or too low if you're a fan and you have expectations for your team.
Not true.
Yeah, well, I try not to. Maybe not you, but it was one of those games where just nothing was working. It was a very good pass defense performance by the Cowboys defense. It was a very bad performance in terms of they didn't even try to run the Philadelphia Eagles. It's like they had 5 carries or designed running plays. So that was frustrating because that was something that they're good at. Their main bread and butter is on the ground to set up the pass plays. And it seemed like they abandoned that game plan going into the matchup against the Cowboys. And you don't want to get into a shootout in terms of passing game with the Cowboys because they could very well end up as one of the best teams in terms of wide receiver core and passer with Dak Prescott back there. And I mean, among the top 5 when it's all said and done by the end of the year. So that was just a bad showing by Nick Sirianni, honestly. The head coach for the Eagles, it's his first year as a play caller. It's his first year as a head coach. There's going to be some growing pains, and we witnessed that at AT&T Stadium on Monday night. A little bit of doubt put in, but, that's the thing. You're talking about a quarterback in his first 7 starts, a really young receiving core, a young backfield, a young offensive line. They'll improve, and that is one of those games where you got to either build on it or you got to start the downward spiral, and it's a tough meat of the schedule coming up for the Eagles. I'm going to assume it's a downward spiral, and got to blame the Dallas Cowboys for what's probably a statement win in their early season.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I took away from this game was it wasn't about the Eagles, it was about the Dallas Cowboys and what they did. Defensively, they were very good on the back end. Dan Quinn has turned this defense around in just one off season from what Mike Nolan was doing last year with this defense and the ineptitude we saw from this Cowboys team in 2020. Now in 2021, this looks like a defense that is set to compete and be one of the best at turning the football over and one of the best in the NFL at this point, if we're going to be honest. They are playing extremely well, extremely sound. They are forcing turnovers, and that is something that usually trends like that continue when you have them throughout a season. So when you start forcing turnovers, that almost becomes a trend for teams in the NFL. And another thing is this offense just seems to be clicking under Kellen Moore as the play caller, putting an offensive lineman at fullback at times to be a lead blocker in certain situations on third and shorts, on goal line and goal-to-go situations. The creativity we are seeing offensively with this team and balancing the run and the pass over these past few weeks, seeing Ezekiel Elliott start to get going, seeing the cutback with him, seeing Dak play about as well as he was, if not even better than he was last year when he was on pace to set record numbers. I mean, this Cowboys team looks like a team that is, I'm not going to say they are on the level of the Super Bowl teams that we expect from this season, whether it is the Rams, what they've shown us so far here early in the season, or even the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who the Cowboys played toe-to-toe with but still lost to in the opener. But they're that next level of teams. They're the Green Bays, the San Franciscos, the Carolina Panthers. Like, they are on that level that is knocking to be on that top level. And I think the Cowboys and their fans, rightfully so, should be very excited about what they're seeing so far, and the Eagles were a statement for them.
Absolutely. Through 3 weeks, you can take away positives from all of the games. There's Tampa Bay, where you had a lead in the final minute and a half if you're Dallas. You obviously got the last-second field goal from Greg the leg, and he gets the winning field goal in LA against the Chargers. Mm-hmm. You win your home opener convincingly, and you hope that AT&T Stadium is a home field advantage that you take into the playoffs, because it's seeming like they're going to win the NFC East, because it's not too easy to be the best team in any given year, but they are going to do it this year so long as they stay healthy. And you mentioned it, Kellen Moore and Mike McCarthy, along with Dak Prescott, are the perfect marriage of a trio where finally you have a healthy Dak Prescott, who was putting up record numbers last year before he got hurt in Week 5 because he had to, because the defense was so bad. And you also mentioned Dan Quinn, who's really turned around this defense, which is definitely a positive because they saw the issues. They set records you'd rather not repeat breaking. And they spent, I think, their first 7 or 8 picks in the draft on defensive players. Of their 11, it was 8. I think their first 6 picks in the draft. Micah Parsons is looking like the defensive rookie of the year. There's so much trending in the positive direction for the Cowboys that, yeah, you be excited about it. Of course, it's always a joke that the Cowboys are going to the Super Bowl among their fans. But, yeah, you can start to feel like this is a team that not only through 3 weeks, keep in mind it's only 3 weeks, is going to probably win their division and, like you said, be considered, so long as they stay healthy, in that upper division of the NFL. Maybe not contender, but those guys that you think of that could be contenders when we hit Week 11, Week 13, and it really starts to look into the standings of, okay, where are they if they were to maybe lose in the wild card hunt? And I don't expect the second-place team in the NFC East to be in the wild card hunt, so they're going to win this division outright most likely. But if they were to, somehow say the Eagles turn it around and have a good season, then if their record is sitting at, I don't know, I'm going to say 10-3 going into the 14th game of the season, then yeah, that is a definite happy Cowboys, we're going to the Super Bowl fan base. For now, we'll just say that they're an above-average team, and that's a good place to be in the NFL.
It is. Now, with all the positives, there are still some negatives that we took away from the game, and one of the negatives that I personally took away was I still question Mike McCarthy's game and clock management. And we saw, or at least if you were watching the Peyton and Eli simulcast on Monday Night Football, Peyton Manning ripping Mike McCarthy for his end-of-half decision not to call a timeout and not to try and tack on points at the end of the half. We saw the end-of-game decision towards the end of the Chargers game in which you're wondering at the end of the game, what are you doing? Are you content kicking a 56-yard field goal with a guy who missed an extra point, which, by the way, that's becoming a theme with Greg Zuerlein, missing extra points, missed another one last night. That's a whole nother issue that we have to watch out with in terms of special teams and how good this kicking game is or is not moving forward. But also in Week 1, end-of-game situation where you are trying to pass and settle for a field goal at the same time, stopping the clock and making sure you give Tom Brady the ball back with enough time to where he can go down and kick a game-winning field goal as well. Like, these are all end-of-game situations. 2 of them, or end of half, were, kind of very important situations at the end of halves and games. We've seen it in all 3 where Mike McCarthy has failed and it came back and bit him, where he failed and yet they survived it, and then at the end of the half where he decided to just roll in on a 20-7 lead, where in the NFL, a 20-7 lead going into half, when you are giving that team back the ball, that can switch the momentum in a hurry in the NFL. We've seen it so many times. So being comfortable sitting on a 20-7 lead, I just question the end of game and very important situation management by Mike McCarthy when it comes to close game situations.
And that's probably the only negative you can really take away from Monday Night Football. Yeah, special teams is one of those shaky things. Obviously, you mentioned the missed extra point, but it is something that I think coaches can improve on as well. Okay, you get the excuse of you were blocked from the one camera man blocking the field time, and then the SoFi $1 billion scoreboard went out on you from your angle. So McCarthy we'll give him a pass for the Chargers game because it all ended well. Yeah, and he had maybe a valid excuse because if you can't see the time, you can't be a good time manager. However, on the other side of it, you're right about the
Before we move on to that, as a play-by-play guy, do you go into a stadium knowing what clocks disappear and do you go into a stadium knowing where clocks are set, which ones are going to go away, and where my backup clocks are?
Yes, you know where the clocks are.
So why wouldn't a head coach do that?
So his excuse was that a clock actually went out on him, didn't disappear, it just zoned out. So, yeah, if all of a sudden my main scoreboard as a play-by-play broadcaster disappears and the other one I can't see, yeah, it's a valid excuse for me not knowing what the time is, and it sucks. I'll just shut up and not say the time, even though I know we're coming towards the end of the half, and it'll end up being a bad broadcast, much like how we question the decision on the timeout use. However, going to the end of the half last night, yeah, I was pretty confused as to why. Okay, I'll give him the maybe Sirianni's going to go for it on fourth down, but he didn't. So then why didn't you call a timeout after the punt? It seemed like he was just content going in 20-7 at the half. And luckily for him, the Cowboys not only continued their momentum, they just dominated in the second half, and the Eagles didn't have any kind of answer. And this is where I miss Doug Peterson as an Eagles fan, because he was somebody who had a game plan. He stuck to it. He had multiple formations. He was going to run. He was going to pass. And you didn't know what he was going to do, whether it was under center or in the shotgun. Sirianni's very vanilla, and it seems like he's keeping it vanilla for the sake of Jalen Hurts. And, okay, I guess I'll get it for now, but he's not going to get too many more passes. But this is something that it should be very fixable for McCarthy as we move forward, whether it's even him just having an iPad that constantly has the time on it.
Now here is another big matchup for the Cowboys coming up this Sunday as they take on the undefeated Carolina Panthers, who will be without Christian McCaffrey, but Sam Darnold looks like he is a renaissance this year under competent play calling by Joe Brady, and Joe Brady has shown he doesn't need Christian McCaffrey. He had a 1,000-yard back and 3,000-yard receivers last year without Christian McCaffrey. So what do you expect as we head into this Carolina game? Because I think this is going to be one of those games that's going to kind of be a measuring stick for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, it's not a primetime game. It kicks off at noon like every other one, so you're probably not going to have the crazier crowd that we saw on Monday night, but it is another AT&T Stadium game, so you hope that home field advantage is worth 7 to 10 points, as you've heard. And, yeah, this will be the true barometer because
Vegas gave you 3 for home field.
Vegas gives you 3. You hope as a team the home field gives you a touchdown. But it's a situation where, okay, obviously you didn't beat Tampa Bay, so you can't go with moral victory because moral victories don't count in the standings. Mm-hmm. And then the Chargers, we'll see where they end up being. They're one of those teams that you consider average on one week, below average another, and above average the next. So what week you ran into them, by the end of the season, we'll find out what the Chargers were in their home opener at SoFi. And then the Eagles, when it's all said and done, could be a bottom 10 team in the league. And this win won't be that impressive come week 15 when you say, okay, well, the Eagles, now they're trying to stay above the bottom of the standings with the Giants and the Washington football team. So this Panthers team, yeah, no McCaffrey obviously hurts for them, but yeah, you're right. Sam Darnold, now that he's no longer a New York Jet, decides to be a good quarterback, and the Panthers overall are a good team. So if the Cowboys can get another definitive win, then yes, then you can start to really feel good about this Cowboys team.
He is Karl Schoening. He is the host of Halftime and the producer for R&R in the Morning. I am James Pledger. You can catch me producing for Halftime, producing for The Blitz from 4 to 7, or hosting the Saturday Morning Hangover. Thanks for joining us on a Cowboys Reaction. We will see you next week.